Although there might be another ferocious animal out there on land, no animal rules the ocean in terms of aggressiveness like sharks. These animals are mighty killers that can even track their victims from more than a mile away to attack them. This video will narrate incidents showing how sharks mauled human beings. It all began one summer afternoon when Alice, a bubbly and adventurous soul with an insatiable thirst for exploration, stumbled upon an old bookstore tucked away in a narrow alley. As she browsed the shelves filled with forgotten tales and faded memories, she stumbled upon a copy of a sea adventure novel from the 19th century. Intrigued by the promise of high seas adventure, she couldn't resist purchasing the book and delving into its pages. Little did she know, fate had a serendipitous encounter in store for her that day. Alice is a 23-year-old student at a university in America who looks older due to her weight. Alice proudly embraces her body, refusing to be defined by society's narrow beauty standards. But she always yearns to do something: swim. Despite her inability to swim, she finds solace and joy in spending time at the beach, basking in the sun's warmth, and listening to the soothing rhythm of the waves. With each visit, she revels in the simple pleasures of the sand between her toes and the salty breeze caressing her skin. As she sat on a bench outside the bookstore, engrossed in the captain's captivating tale, she heard three people's loud voices as they conversed. These folks, which include two men of Alice's age and a lady, notice her, and aside from that, they see the book she is holding. And one exclaims in surprise, since he'd been trying to get the book for a long time. There, he talked with Alice about where she got it, and she answered that it was the last one in the bookstore. He introduced himself as Kenneth and the other two as Jose and Donna. They were also students of the same university, albeit in different departments. What united them was the shared dream of spending time at the beach, reading and writing about the beauty of the water. So they formed a group to formalize their interest and attract more people with the same dream. When Alice commented about her interest in marine life, Kenneth quickly introduced her to the group, and she joined happily. They decided to continue their conversation over dinner at a nearby canteen, and their friendship blossomed from there. Over the following weeks and months, the group embarked on countless adventures. However, one of these adventures had a different impact on Alice and everyone at the beach during that time. The day started like any other as the group joined at the beach, where they had planned to go on a trip earlier. After several months with the team, they knew Alice couldn't swim because of her ample frame, so they put her through training and swimming lessons to help her overcome this. They got into the boat and sailed to a part of the ocean where the engine was shut off, and they took out what they brought to eat. Determined to prove that she could now swim, she watched the buoy bobbing in the distance and made a spontaneous decision. Alice announced that she was going to swim to that buoy. Her friends exchanged uncertain glances, but Alice was already stripping off her outer clothes, revealing her bikini, and she slipped into the water. The cold shock of the ocean enveloped her as she began to swim, her strokes determined but unsteady. As Alice navigated the waters, the currents tugged relentlessly against her. Her muscles strained against the resistance with each stroke, and doubts crept into her mind. But she pushed them aside, focusing on the buoy ahead and swimming back. Unbeknownst to Alice, her struggles had attracted an unexpected observer. Under the surface, a great white shark prowled, drawn by the ripples. Then suddenly she heard a scream from Kenneth and Donna, urging her to beware of the shark, and turned back quickly towards the boat. She turned towards them with her heart pounding in her chest, as she was scared of the incident. She glanced back towards the boat to see her friends frozen in place, their faces pale with dread. Panic threatened to overwhelm her, but she forced herself to keep moving, each stroke a battle against her doubts and the relentless pull of the currents. It would have been better if she had just entered the water. She had long swam away from the boat, and returning wasn't easy. As she tried swimming back, she felt a sudden tug at her leg. She gasped as she was yanked beneath the surface, the cold embrace of the ocean swallowing her whole. Amid the turmoil, Alice's mind whirred into action, seeking an escape. Recalling tales of sharks repelled by abrupt motions and loud sounds, she tapped into a burst of adrenaline. She kicked forcefully and exhaled sharply underwater, aiming to create bubbles and noise to scare the predator into loosening its grip. Miraculously, her strategy succeeded. The grip on her leg relaxed, and Alice propelled herself upwards with all her might, breaking through the water's surface to draw a desperate breath. However, her sense of victory was fleeting. Peering down, she spotted the ominous silhouette circling beneath her, patiently waiting. The incident left Alice shaken to her core. Her friends on the boat were equally horrified, their faces contorted with fear as they watched the drama unfold. Kenneth, Donna, and the others shouted words of encouragement, urging Alice to swim faster back to the boat's safety. Amidst the chaos of the struggle, Jose, who had been stupefied since the incident began, suddenly had a stroke of inspiration. He knew they had to act fast to save Alice from the looming threat of the shark circling below. Determined, he rallied Kenneth and Donna to his side, their faces grim with resolve as they prepared to mount a rescue mission. Without hesitation, they sprang into action, firing up the boat's engine and speeding towards Alice with all urgency. The engine's roar filled the air as they cut through the waves, their eyes fixed on the lone figure struggling in the water ahead. As they drew closer, Alice's heart leaped with hope as she saw the boat approaching. With renewed determination, she pushed herself to the limit, her muscles burning with exertion as she fought to reach the boat's safety before it was too late. With a final burst of effort, Alice reached out towards the outstretched hands of Kenneth and Donna, their faces etched with relief as they pulled her aboard with all the strength they could muster. As she collapsed onto the deck, gasping for air and trembling with exhaustion, she felt a wave of gratitude wash over her, knowing that she had narrowly escaped a brush with death thanks to the quick thinking and unwavering determination of her friends. As they sailed back to shore, the tension that had gripped them slowly began to ease, replaced by a sense of profound relief and gratitude for their miraculous escape. Alice huddled close to Kenneth, Donna, and Jose, their arms wrapped around her in a protective embrace as they navigated the waters. Despite the lingering fear and uncertainty in the air, there was also a palpable sense of camaraderie and solidarity forged in the crucible of shared danger and triumph. As they stepped onto the sandy shores of the beach once more, battered but unbroken, Alice couldn't help but feel a profound sense of gratitude for the friends who had risked their lives to save her. At that moment, she knew their bond was more potent than any force of nature, forged in the crucible of shared danger and triumph. In the depths of the Atlantic Ocean, Deborah Lawson found her sanctuary. A sanctuary she hadn't always been brave enough to explore. Deborah had always been enamored with wildlife photography, but her fear of encountering wild animals that could potentially harm her or others had kept her from pursuing her passion. A particular incident solidified this fear for her. While on a photography expedition in the Amazon rainforest, Deborah faced a deadly snake. It had slithered dangerously close to her, its venomous fangs poised to strike. If it weren't for the protection of the glass encampment she was in, Deborah's life might have been extinguished. That encounter had shaken her to the core, instilling a deep-seated fear of the unknown that had held her back for years. However, fate led us down unexpected paths, and for Deborah, that path led straight to the ocean. It was a realm she had always been drawn to, its vastness both exhilarating and humbling. Despite her initial reservations, Deborah was drawn to the underwater world, captivated by its beauty and charisma. Deborah discovered a newfound sense of purpose and passion as she delved deeper into marine photography. She marveled at the ocean's wonders with each dive, from the vibrant coral reefs teeming with life to the majestic creatures that called it home. Armed with her camera and courage, she set out to capture the beauty of this underwater realm, one frame at a time. Over time, Deborah became a seasoned diver and photographer, honing her skills and pushing herself to new depths, literally and figuratively. She explored countless underwater realms, from the Caribbean's crystal-clear waters to the Arctic Ocean's icy depths. With each expedition, she pushed the boundaries of her fears and limitations, immersing herself in the awe-inspiring beauty of the underwater world. One particular expedition stands out in Deborah's memory. It was a journey to the remote waters of the South Pacific, where she had the opportunity to photograph one of the ocean's most elusive shark breeds. It was a dream come true for Deborah, a chance to capture these magnificent predators' raw power and beauty in their natural habitat. As usual, Deborah got her camera gear, diving equipment, and helping hands aboard a vessel for research expeditions. She heard from a diver about a school of rarely seen sharks discovered in the ocean. So she wanted to try her luck and have it revealed to the world to her credit. For a day, they scoured the ocean depths, following whispers and rumors in pursuit of their elusive quarry. Then on the second day of their journey, they received a promising lead. A local fisherman claimed to have spotted some rare sea creatures in a specific ocean part. With renewed determination, Deborah and her crew set course for the coordinates provided, their anticipation building with each passing mile. She didn't even want to know if it was those sharks. When they reached a certain level in the ocean, the acceleration stopped, and Deborah prepared to dive into the water since she probably couldn't have a good view of these sharks from the vessel. Descending into the depths, Deborah was taken aback by the eerie beauty of the underwater landscape. Although she had been underwater several times, the strange rock formations that twisted and turned, and schools of colorful fish darting among the coral reefs with their hypnotic and graceful movements gave Deborah a chill. Deborah didn't dive into the water alone. She went in with one of the crew, and together they navigated through the labyrinth of caves, their excitement mounting with each passing minute. Then suddenly they spotted them, a group of shadowy pictures lurking in the darkness, their sleek form gliding effortlessly through the water. Heart pounding with excitement, Deborah adjusted her camera settings and moved forward to capture images of these elusive sharks. As she focused her lens, a sense of awe washed over her. This was why she had become a photographer, to witness moments of beauty and wonder that few others would ever experience firsthand. When Deborah advanced to capture better photos and videos of the marine life, her fellow crew member, Walhi, was also in the shallow coastal waters. Entranced by the vibrant ocean reefs nearby, Walhi drifted away, thoroughly absorbed in the underwater spectacle. But then, in an instant, everything changed. Without warning, one of the sharks turned and charged towards Deborah with lightning speed. Instinct took over as she darted out of its path, her heart hammering in her chest. Deborah was lucky to have escaped the first attack as the shark's powerful jaws snapped inches from her leg. Panic surged through Deborah as she realized the gravity of her situation. She was not just an observer anymore. She had become the prey in a deadly game of cat and mouse. Desperate for escape, Deborah searched for a way out. But the labyrinthine cave she had entered offered little respite, its twisting passages leading only more profound into the darkness. The time spent inside the cave had an impact on her, and her oxygen began dwindling. When she noticed that, she knew she had no time to waste, and the shark was still on her as well. Drawing on every ounce of courage and determination, Deborah pressed on, her mind racing with possibilities. Then suddenly she spotted it, a narrow crevice in the cave wall, just wide enough for her to squeeze through. Deborah plunged into the narrow opening with the shark hot on her heels, her heart pounding in her ears. The passage was cramped and claustrophobic, the walls closing around her with each passing inch. But she pushed aside her fear, focusing instead on the single-minded goal of survival. As she emerged on the other side, she broke through the surface and removed her oxygen mask, gasping for breath as she gulped in the sweet, life-giving air. But her victory was short-lived. As she looked around, Deborah realized with horror that she was not alone. Another shark, sensing her presence, had gotten close to her on the surface, its dark eyes fixed on her with deadly intent. With nowhere left to run, Deborah knew that she faced a fight for her life. Deborah tried to brace herself for the inevitable confrontation, drawing on her years of diving experience, but the shark gave her no chance as it attacked her almost immediately. Deborah tried to remove the oxygen tank when the shark attacked, so she quickly dodged the shark's attack, her reflexes honed by years of training. And then with a burst of adrenaline-fueled strength, she struck back with the tank. Using the tank as a makeshift weapon, Deborah delivered a series of powerful blows to the shark's vulnerable underbelly. With each strike, she felt a surge of triumph, her fear giving way to a primal sense of exhilaration. However, the shark isn't ready to give up. The shark tried another fatal attack with its jaw opened wide, but Deborah didn't let that get to her. She quickly positioned the tank in its jaw to protect herself, and it worked. The tank got stuck in the shark's jaw, and Deborah utilized the opportunity to escape. As the tension mounted, the other crew members in the water hurried back to the vessel. There, they waited anxiously for Deborah's return. Their concern for her safety was palpable. Some paced restlessly across the deck, unsure of where to begin a search. Relief washed over them when they spotted Deborah in the distance, clutching her camera while wading in the water. They quickly maneuvered the vessel toward her, recognizing that she must be exhausted. They helped her aboard with careful coordination, ensuring her safety and recovery. But even as she basked in her hard-won victory, Deborah knew that her journey was far from over. She still has many adventures to explore. One fateful evening, the popular restaurant overlooking the pristine beaches of the Maldives welcomed a spectacular visitor, Dennis and Catherine, a Canadian couple embarking on their dream honeymoon. After 2 blissful years together, their love deepened with each passing day, culminating in an elaborate wedding ceremony in one of Canada's grandest churches. Their honeymoon plans had been set in motion months before the wedding, as they meticulously booked their luxurious hotel in the Maldives through a trusted agent. Immediately after their heartfelt wedding ceremony, they boarded a plane bound for the sun-kissed shores of the Maldives, eager to start their new chapter as husband and wife. The first 2 days of their honeymoon were spent in blissful relaxation, indulgent spa treatments, and romantic dinners under the stars. Every moment was filled with love and laughter as they celebrated their union in paradise. On the 3rd day of their honeymoon, Dennis and Catherine found themselves at the beachside restaurant, enjoying a sumptuous seafood lunch while overlooking the enchanting topaz waters below. The gentle lapping of the waves and the soft caress of the sea breeze created the perfect ambiance for a romantic afternoon. As they savored the last bites of their meal, Dennis excused himself to settle the bill, leaving Catherine alone to admire the breathtaking view. Then he overheard a conversation at the counter about the beach's current conditions. His curiosity piqued, and Dennis inquired further, only to be met with a sobering response. Sharks had been spotted in the area recently, making it dangerous for swimming. The news sent a shiver down Dennis's spine as he returned to Catherine's side, his thoughts consumed by the warning they had just received. Though they returned to their hotel, the longing to immerse themselves in the crystal-clear waters of the ocean lingered in their minds. Despite the warning, Dennis and Catherine couldn't shake the desire to experience the magic of the Maldives' pristine beaches firsthand. Dennis and Catherine felt a magnetic pull towards the beach as the sun dipped below the horizon. The allure of the fresh sea air, a welcome change from the artificial coolness of their hotel's air conditioning, beckoned them to the shore. Despite the earlier warnings and the somber atmosphere over the beach, the couple couldn't resist the ocean's call. They found themselves at the beach pier, where they sat hand in hand, silently soaking in the evening's tranquility. Once bustling with activity, the beach now lay deserted, the only sound being the gentle rustle of the palm trees in the breeze. Yet despite the eerie calm, a sense of peace enveloped them, as if they were the only 2 people in the world. As the moon rose high in the sky, casting a silvery glow over the water, Dennis's mind sparked with an idea. Why not take advantage of the deserted beach and indulge in a romantic swim under the moonlight? With a mischievous twinkle in his eye, he shared his suggestion with Catherine, who responded with an enthusiastic nod. With their decision made, Dennis and Catherine wasted no time shedding their clothes and wading into the cool embrace of the ocean. The water enveloped them like a lover's embrace, its gentle caress a soothing balm to their souls. They laughed and splashed like children, their voices mingling with the rhythmic lapping of the waves as they ventured further from shore. The water stirred some distance from them as if drawn by the night or their murmured conversation. Catherine noticed the disturbance, and her attention was momentarily caught. Unknown to them, danger was concealed beneath the surface, hidden within the shadows of the moonlight. Dennis and Catherine's carefree evening turned sinister as the ripples transformed into a dark, ominous shape. Dread crept into their hearts like a cold, clammy hand as the shadow grew more extensive and defined. With mounting horror, they realized they were not alone in the water. A massive form circled beneath them, its sleek silhouette a chilling reminder of the ocean's untamed power. It was a more formidable giant shark than any they had ever encountered, its eyes glinting with predatory hunger in the moonlight. Fear seized Dennis and Catherine in its icy grip as they stared down at the creature, its presence casting a shadow over their once idyllic evening. With trembling hands and racing hearts, Dennis and Catherine knew they had to act fast. Without hesitation, they turned and began to swim for shore, their movements frantic and erratic. But the shark, sensing their vulnerability, struck with lightning speed, its jaws snapping shut just inches from their trembling bodies. Miraculously, they managed to evade the first attack, but knew they were not out of danger yet. Adrenaline fueled their desperate flight as they pushed themselves to their limits, the shore seeming impossibly distant with each passing moment. The relentless pull of the ocean threatened to drag them under, but they refused to succumb to despair. Yet despite their valiant efforts, the shark struck again, its mighty jaws closing around Dennis's leg with a vice-like grip. The searing pain ripped through his body, but Dennis refused to show his helplessness. With Catherine's support, they struggled to free his leg from the shark's grasp, their efforts fueled by sheer determination and a will to survive. After several tense moments, they finally managed to break free, with Dennis's leg bearing a deep gash from the shark's razor-sharp teeth. But despite the pain and the fear that threatened to consume them, Dennis and Catherine refused to give up. With unwavering resolve, they continued their harrowing journey toward shore, their love for each other as a beacon of hope in the darkness. With Dennis injured, Catherine knew they had to act fast. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, they redoubled their efforts, their minds focused solely on survival. Finally, after an eternity, they felt the soft, grainy sand beneath their feet. With one last surge of strength, they stumbled onto the shore, gasping for breath as they collapsed onto the sand. They changed into their clothes, and Catherine quickly dialed their agent, who arrived promptly by car to take them to the hospital. Dennis's wound was cared for, and the doctors worked swiftly to treat his injury. Though their honeymoon had taken an unexpected turn, Catherine remained steadfast by Dennis's side, offering him comfort and reassurance in the face of adversity. Despite the setback, they found solace in knowing they had faced the danger together and emerged stronger. The ocean stretched out before them, a vast expanse of blue as far as the eye could see. Nathan and Victoria stood on the ship's deck, their hearts pounding excitedly as they prepared for their long-awaited shark cage dive. They had dreamed of this moment for weeks, imagining the thrill of coming face to face with one of the ocean's most feared predators. As they donned their wetsuits and checked their diving equipment, both shared nervous glances, their excitement tinged with a hint of apprehension. They had both heard the stories, the tales of divers who had ventured into the depths only never to return. But they pushed aside their doubts, determined to conquer their fears and experience the wonders beneath the surface. With the cage secured to the side of the boat, they both descended into the water, their anticipation building with each passing moment. The cool embrace of the ocean enveloped them, a welcome relief from the oppressive day's stifling heat. They adjusted their masks and regulators, their breath coming in short, shallow gasps as they prepared to enter the shark-infested waters below. Nathan and Victoria's excitement reached a fever pitch as the cage descended into the depths. They peered through the bars, their eyes scanning the depths for movement. They put out bait to attract the sharks in the water and wait for the creatures to keep coming. And then, suddenly, they saw what they wanted to see. It was a dark shape gliding effortlessly through the water. With a rush of adrenaline, Nathan moved closer to Victoria's side, and together they watched in awe as the shark came closer, its cold black eyes fixed on them with predatory intent. Fear mingled with excitement as they marveled at the sheer power and grace of the creature before them. This was what they had come for, to experience the raw beauty and danger of the ocean in all its glory. But then, without warning, disaster struck. You might expect a different one. A sudden storm descended upon the ocean, lashing the surface with ferocious winds and towering waves. The vessel rocked violently in the churning waters, its hull creaking and groaning under the strain. As Nathan and Victoria watched in horror, they realized they were trapped in the cage at the mercy of the above storm. Panic surged through them as they clung to the cage's bars, their hearts pounding in their chests. With each passing moment, the storm grew more intense, threatening to tear the cage from its moorings and cast it adrift in the unforgiving depths below. And as they looked out at the roiling waters, they knew their situation was dire. Then, as suddenly as it started, the storm stopped. They've become distraught with this storm, so they only want to escape the shark cage. However, they discover something shocking. It refused to work when they pressed the cage winch system that would automatically take them back to the vessel. After several acts, they discovered it had been damaged. They tried to shake the chain to alert those agents on the boat, but they got no response. With their air supplies dwindling and no hope of rescue, Nathan and Victoria knew they had to act fast. Drawing on their training and experience, they began to assess the damage to the cage, searching for any signs of weakness or compromise, and a way to get out of the cage before they died. With each passing minute, Nathan and Victoria felt the weight of their predicament pressing down on them. But they refused to succumb to despair, determined to find a way out of their dire situation. But as they worked, they discovered they had to deal with another serious issue. The sharks continued to circle, their dark forms looming ever closer in the depths. They could feel the creatures' predatory gaze upon them with each pass, their cold, lifeless eyes filled with hunger and malice. And as the minutes ticked by, they knew they were running out of time. Those sharks were coming for their bait before the storm, so they returned with full force. A slam at the cage disoriented them, and the winch they had been trying to resolve returned to square one. After several minutes of banging the cage, the bars began to dent. Later, the sharks retreated after they'd consumed the bait and could attack only iron bars. Nathan and Victoria still consider it a miracle that their oxygen wasn't exhausted during the clashes. Nathan tried to force one of the bars big enough for them to escape, but it wasn't easy. Luckily, the agents on top of the vessel had timed their trip, so they decided to pull up the cage after they'd waited a while for Nathan and Victoria to activate the winch system. But they didn't. And then, with a low, ominous groan, the cage began to ascend, its metal frame creaking and groaning under the strain. With each passing moment, Nathan and Victoria held their breath, their eyes fixed on the surface above as they prayed for deliverance from the depths below. And then, finally, after what felt like an eternity, they breached the surface, quickly removed their mask, and gasped for breath as they gulped in the sweet, life-giving air. With tears of relief streaming down their faces, they clung to each other, their hearts overflowing with gratitude for their miraculous escape from the jaws of death. As they looked out at the storm-tossed sea, they knew they would never forget the terror of that fateful day when a simple shark cage dive had turned into a fight for survival against the ocean's fury. What began as a simple and unassuming rain quickly escalated into the most catastrophic event ever, hitting the beach city of Rio de Janeiro. A torrential downpour of epic proportions ravaged the city for 10 days, transforming its streets, alleys, and buildings into raging rivers. The impact was particularly devastating in the northern part of the city, where its onslaught first began. In the initial days, the rain fell slowly and steadily. Still, as the hours turned into days, its intensity grew, wreaking havoc on the city's infrastructure and bringing economic activities to a grinding halt. Water levels rose rapidly, submerging cars and flooding major thoroughfares, turning them into impassable rivers. A dozen bus lines were forced to shut down, and several metro stations were closed due to water affecting the tracks. The relentless rainfall showed no signs of abating, with some areas receiving a year's worth of rain in just 72 hours. Despite the valiant efforts of firefighters to respond to the crisis, their own lives were put at risk by the unforgiving rain. Calls for help overwhelmed their lines, with reports of missing persons flooding in, but the ongoing rain hampered rescue efforts, leaving many stranded and vulnerable. Injured individuals in desperate need of medical attention found themselves trapped in their homes as the floodwaters surged around them. Hospitals, typically places of refuge and safety, were not spared from the storm's wrath. In one of the worst affected neighborhoods, floodwaters seeped into hospital basements, affecting offices and disrupting critical services. After the catastrophic hurricane, the once vibrant urban landscape lay submerged beneath a turbulent sea. The towering buildings, once symbols of progress and prosperity, now lay in ruins, their shattered remnants barely visible beneath the dark, churning waters. For the residents who had weathered the storm, it was a scene of unimaginable devastation. a city transformed overnight into a watery graveyard of shattered dreams and broken promises. Yet, amidst the chaos and despair, a new threat emerged, a silent menace that lurked beneath the surface, biding its time. Displaced by the storm's ferocity, bull sharks ventured into the city, their predatory instincts heightened by the scent of blood and fear. For the beleaguered residents who dared to brave the treacherous waters, every journey became a gamble with their lives. Canoes and makeshift boats became the primary mode of transportation, as families navigated through the submerged streets in search of higher ground and safety. Among those who ventured into the watery depths was Maria Sanchez, a single mother of two who had lost everything in the storm. When the hurricane struck with devastating force, Maria was at work, separated from her children, who were thankfully safe at school. With a heart heavy with grief and uncertainty, Maria set out to reunite with her beloved children, determined to protect and provide for them in the face of adversity. With her two children by her side, Maria paddled through the depths, her arms aching with every stroke. Yet despite the overwhelming odds stacked against her, she refused to succumb to despair. As they navigated the treacherous waters, Maria and her children were devastated. Homes lay submerged beneath the floodwaters, their contents scattered and destroyed by the relentless force of nature. Yet amidst the wreckage, Maria witnessed moments of compassion and solidarity as neighbors banded together to support and assist those in need. With trembling hands, Maria and her children began to sift through the wreckage left after the devastating hurricane, searching for anything salvageable amidst the debris. Maria prepared to make their escape, gathering what few belongings they could salvage. But just as they were about to leave, disaster struck. The water surged forward, knocking Maria off her feet and tumbling into the depths below. As she struggled to break free, she felt a sharp pain shoot through her leg, followed by a rush of warmth as blood mingled with the water around her. With mounting dread, she realized she had fallen victim to the sharks that now circled hungrily around her, their jaws snapping with savage ferocity as they closed in for the kill. But Maria refused to give up hope. With a strength born of desperation, she fought against the current, clawing toward the surface with every ounce of her being. In a stroke of luck, her hand found purchase on a broken plank floating nearby, and she used it as a makeshift weapon to fend off her attackers. With a final desperate blow, she struck the nearest shark with all her might, causing it to retreat in pain. With her children watching in horror from the safety of a nearby pavement, Maria summoned every last ounce of strength and swam towards them, her injured leg throbbing with pain. Together, they clung to each other for support as they made their escape, the memory of their harrowing ordeal etched into their minds forever. But Maria's brush with death was not an isolated incident. In the aftermath of the hurricane, there were numerous reports of shark attacks on unsuspecting residents who found themselves trapped in the floodwaters. Some, like Maria, were lucky enough to survive with injuries, while others were not so fortunate. Their lives were tragically cut short by the relentless predators that now roamed the city streets. In response to the growing crisis, authorities emerged, deploying water guides and necessary officials to address the shark-infested waters. With swift and decisive action, all sharks discovered in the city were euthanized, bringing an end to the reign of terror that had gripped the community. As the floodwaters slowly receded in the following weeks, the community was left to assess the extent of the damage and plan to prevent future incidents. In the age of social media, where likes and views reign supreme, some will go to any lengths to capture the perfect shot. Among them was Joan Mitchell, a thrill-seeking influencer with a penchant for pushing the boundaries of adventure. With her camera in hand and her sights set on fame and fortune, she can plan audacious stunts just to capture the attention of her followers. That's what she did when she made an illegal dive into a restricted area known for its shark activity. Gathering a group of like-minded adventurers, Joan embarked on her quest for the ultimate thrill. With promises of fame and fortune swirling in their heads, they eagerly followed her lead, their hearts pounding with anticipation as they ventured into the unknown depths of the ocean. As they descended into the waters, the ethereal beauty of the underwater world unfolded before them, captivating their senses with its otherworldly allure. Despite the inherent dangers lurking below, Joan and her companions reveled in the exhilaration of their surroundings, their adrenaline-fueled excitement propelling them forward in search of the perfect shot. With each passing moment, they captured the essence of their adventure, filming themselves as they swam amongst the vibrant coral reefs and darting schools of fish. Joan, in particular, took center stage, her charisma and fearlessness shining through as she backstroked gracefully through the water, her camera capturing every moment of her daring escapade. But their idyllic underwater expedition took a terrifying turn when Taylor, one of Joan's companions, suddenly shouted a warning. With a sinking feeling in her stomach, Joan turned to see what had prompted Taylor's alarm, only to face a scene straight out of a nightmare, a shark-feeding frenzy in full swing. However, Joan's determination was unwavering as she edged closer to the feeding frenzy. Despite the frantic warnings from her crewmates, their voices, tinged with urgency, echoed in her ears, but she remained resolute, driven by an insatiable curiosity to witness the spectacle up close. As she inched closer, the atmosphere crackled with tension, her companions' panic escalating with each passing moment. Their cameras rolled, capturing the impending danger looming ever closer. Despite their distance, the fear was palpable, their hearts pounding in sync with the rhythm of the ocean waves. Recognizing the imminent peril, Taylor tried to intervene, knowing time was of the essence. But Joan pressed on, seemingly oblivious to the danger that surrounded her. Just as Taylor prepared to call out a final warning, disaster struck with swift and savage force. A sudden surge and Joan's piercing yell pierced the air as one of the sharks lunged, sinking its teeth into her flesh. The struggle was frantic, a desperate battle for survival as Joan fought to break free from the jaws of death. With the rest of the crew rushing to her aid, their shouts mingled with the crashing waves as they fought to pry her from the shark's grip. With a collective effort, they managed to wrench Joan free, leaving her body limp and bloodied as they hauled her back toward the safety of the boat. They counted every second as they raced against time, knowing Joan's blood could attract even more predators. But amidst the chaos and the pain, Joan's lips curled into a serene smile, and her eyes were alight with an unexpected sense of contentment. When her companions questioned her about the source of her inexplicable joy, she simply gestured towards the camera, a glimmer of pride shining through the haze of agony. For Joan, the harrowing ordeal had not been in vain. Her unwavering determination had captured the raw essence of survival, immortalizing the moment for the world to witness. After being swiftly transported to the hospital, Joan underwent surgery to mend the deep gash left by the shark's bite. The doctors worked diligently, stitching up the wound with precision and administering a course of antibiotics to prevent infection. Though the injury would likely leave a scar, Joan was fortunate that the outcome wasn't more severe. Despite the ordeal, Joan found a silver lining in the form of the photograph she managed to capture. The image froze the heart-stopping moment the shark's jaws clamped down, preserving it for eternity. With relief and pride, she shared the photo and accompanying video on her social media accounts a week later. To her astonishment, the response was overwhelming. Within hours, the post had garnered thousands of likes, shares, and comments from around the globe. Joan's story spread like wildfire, capturing the attention of media outlets far and wide. Before she knew it, Joan was thrust into the spotlight, her newfound fame eclipsing anything she had ever imagined. She appeared on talk shows, podcasts, and interviews, recounting the gripping tale of survival that had captured the imagination of millions.